So I hope you're all having a great day, because today we're talking about Reforge again, because Reforge doesn't like that someone else has a different opinion and enjoys Xbox, because a couple of fools is I believe he calls himself a former PlayStation fanboy or just someone that enjoys the platform and recently came over to Xbox just to give it a try and mainly enjoys his time with it. That's pretty much it. But Reforge believes that he would hate it or whatever else. I don't really remember. I just had this video saved in the background and I'm kind of late to talking about it, so I don't know. I just want to talk about it. Anyway, let's go look at it.
Who cares? Like, I'm drawn by games and quality, and the entire reason that guy did a reaction video to me is because I said, yes, if you suddenly jump into the Xbox Series X 5 years into the gen, and you get to enjoy an ocean of Game Pass games, you've not lived through the dark times of Xbox.
Okay, before we really get into Reforge's point, if you want the context behind this, as I'm sure some of you will care if you haven't seen this entire thing, it's mainly this video. That's all you really need to watch, and this is pretty much him responding to that video. And of course, his channel name is A Couple of Fools, so go check him out, go give him a sub. He's a very wholesome content creator. He just enjoys making content and is enjoying his time with Xbox. That's pretty much it. But Reforge, who cares? Who cares that you're out for the quality and experiences? He's enjoying his time with Xbox. He responded to you, criticized you for having a little sook and whine about how he shares a different opinion, and even though you think he shouldn't and that he should agree with you, you're completely stupid. No one really cares. Let the man enjoy his time on Xbox. Even I've considered going on there, just to add him on Xbox and play Halo. Of course, I'm a bit of a virgin when it comes to Halo. I have 100% of the Master Chief Collection. You can check out my Steam profile for that if you want. I don't think I've actually updated my Xbox profile yet. I probably should do that. But I really just want to ask Reforge, why should he come over to Xbox and now have to take into consideration the previous years of the Series X sucking ass? Don't get me wrong, I kind of agree, well, I absolutely do agree with you. It was very miserable to be on the Series X. I found it pretty miserable. I felt like I wasted my money with that console. I still feel like I did. But guess what? Couple of Fools doesn't share that same experience. He's got a bunch of games because he's never, to my knowledge, never really owned an Xbox. He's got years of games just to sit there and play, whether it's not the old Gears, the remastered version of Gears 1, and the rest of the trilogy. He can go play and enjoy them. And that's not also including the myriad of other franchises like Halo, Fable, even some of the Xbox arcade games that I don't believe you can actually play anymore, and it's only available through the Xbox Store and Game Pass, like games like Viva Pinata and a couple other smaller games that, you know, are from the 360 era. I'd recommend him playing as many as he can. They're all pretty good old games. Most new games for Xbox kinda suck ass. You know, it will always surprise me that a couple of fools managed to piss off Reforge just by talking about how he likes Quick Resume as a feature, and with couple of fools' experience with it and with his perspective on it, it's actually made me consider that next time when I boot up my Series X, I might actually use it, but since I only play Destiny 1 on my Series X, I wouldn't really have much of a need for it. But if I ever want to play another game on there, I have a couple of fools to thank for that. I also should thank Couple of Fools for the free Reforge salt that I can make a little bit of shekels from.
You don't understand why 4 years into the gen, someone like myself stops using my Xbox, which was my main console, and started using my PlayStation more. You don't understand that because you're coming to PlayStation late. I'm sorry, you're coming to Xbox late.
Why should he care, Reforge? He's got games to play. Suck it up, princess. But I really do want to ask this, Reforge. Why should he take into consideration, and I've said this before, what happened with Xbox previously? Why should he think about that? He doesn't need to. He jumped in and he's enjoying his time. That is it. There's no need for him to take that into consideration. Why should he take that into consideration when talking to you? Just because you're mad and you're not happy with your product doesn't mean that he has to be in that same mindset as you. Just because me and you felt like that we've wasted our money on our Xboxes doesn't mean that he needs to feel like that. Just let the man enjoy his games on that console.
So, of course you think Xbox is great when you jump in 5 years in and you don't have to wait on the cadence of games. You get to boot up Game Pass and play Stalker 2 and Indiana Jones and Hi-Fi Rush and Forza Horizon. Just boom, 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 boom. You didn't have to wait 4 years to get 3 decent games.
Reforge, this analogy can be applied to PlayStation. Both consoles and companies and all their studios have had a pretty shitty generation across the board. This has been a pretty weak generation in my eyes. We've gotten less games than previous generations, but guess what? Can you guess what's so cool about that? Is that once you've gotten halfway through the generation, and you want to jump into either the PS5 or the Series X, you get all those games that other people had to wait for. Does it really matter? No, because it doesn't matter when you jump in, as long as you get your money's worth out of that platform, and the games on it. And if it has the features that you want, that is all that matters. Nobody gives a shit if it was shitty at the start. If you jumped in halfway, it's good enough for you and you enjoy it, that's it. You don't need to worry. Everything's working as intended.
Like, my point was very fair to him. It was like, value is subjective. So yes, if you don't do anything with Xbox for 5 years and then you jump in, your experience is going to be different than mine. I mained Xbox. I couldn't wait for the Series X to come out. The cadence of first-party games was terrible. The quality of first-party games was terrible. They kept shipping games late. They kept shipping games at 30 FPS. They've been nothing but disappointment for 5 years. So of course you're going to come in late and get to skip over all the crap and have a better time.
You really went from Xbox to PlayStation? I don't believe that for a second. I like, me personally, right? I would have just jumped ship straight to PC because both Xbox and PlayStation had their issues of shitty optimization and releasing some of their games at 30 FPS when both of these platforms promised us roughly 60 to 120 FPS on average and as the standard. So I feel like when you say that you looked at PlayStation and they offered you the actual quality that you want, yeah, they may have, but I wouldn't really agree with you because you could just move to PC and get all the features that you want and save a lot of money in the process.
And then you're going to say, oh, Quick Resume's such a great feature. Not really. Not really. Pound for pound, point by point, it's not that great when you say, well, all you got to do is put your PlayStation in rest mode.
Reforge, I hope you know that rest mode and doing quick resume are not the same things. Actively pausing up to 8 games on Xbox is kinda crazy. We can't even do that on PC. If we could, that would be really cool. Imagine resuming a game straight after you get bored and want to switch over to them. That's a really cool feature to have. And you can look at other features that other platforms have. For example, PlayStation being a console that has access to stuff like VR. That's a pretty cool thing to actually, have on a console. And I kinda wish when I was on Xbox actually had that, as I think, spending money on a VR headset just to play a couple VR games might have been cool for what it was. Maybe not worth the money, but it's still a cool feature nonetheless. All of these small features that you have on platforms can add up to make a very more interesting and unique experience. But I will say this, Reforge, from what I've been told, rest mode is not really comparable to quick resume.
Half these commenters weren't even born during our gaming struggles, bunch of keyboard warriors. I dare them to buy a second-hand first, second-gen consoles and give it a go in comparison to today's devices. I'm not sure what you're saying, Andy. Quick resume just feels like an evolution of rest mode. Yeah, like, if you want me to be compelled that, like, hey, Series X is great, Xbox is actually pretty great, well, of course you think that when you come in 5 years later.
Reforge, those 5 years are a very small part of what a couple of fools actually gets out of the Xbox platform. Not only does he get stuff like that's on Game Pass, which includes a bunch of old Xbox games and 360 games, he's got the entire catalog that he would want to play through that, whether or not he wants to purchase the games or not. Because you're only looking at the past 5 years on the Series X. He's, to my knowledge, a couple of fools, has never really owned an Xbox or played on it consistently to really play all those old games that are now available through Game Pass and just buying the games in general. He's got years of games that he can play through it if he so desires to. Not just the previous 5 years of waiting for new releases from Microsoft.
And you didn't have to suffer through 30 FPS Starfield at launch, Redfall at launch, which was a disaster regardless of 30 FPS or not. You didn't have to live through Halo Infinite. And looking forward, and I covered Halo Infinite a bunch, and we did community game nights with Halo Infinite. You didn't have to live through watching that game slowly die from ineptitude and destruction from Microsoft. So yeah, you want to strut into Xbox 5 years into the gen and act like I'm the fanboy because you're having a great time.
You literally are a fanboy. Everyone knows you are, because all you do is talk about PlayStation. Not in the sense of covering news for it, is that you make up a bunch of shit and always try to cap for PlayStation within your content. The people that upload your clips like Astro Cyborg do a very good example of what you're like, of what you say, and they don't usually take you out of context, they always make sure to provide the context. And as always, you come off as a fanboy in how you interact with a lot of your community and how you think of these companies. The only person you have the blame for this, Reforge, is yourself. You're the only one that put yourself in this situation. They would not be clipping you and putting these things all over Twitter and YouTube of you if you weren't saying something dumb. People disagree with you, and I'm sure you know that full well and want to continue saying that because it brings more traction to your channel. Pretty much turning yourself into a glorified DSP.
And I'm like, well, yeah, of course you are. You missed out on 4 years of waiting and frustration and disappointment and terribleness. You missed out on all of that. So you want to call me a fanboy and put me in your video? You go right the frick ahead. I hope you continue to have a great time on Xbox. But there are some of us that have been with Xbox since the 360 era. And this has been an incredibly disappointing generation.
I've already said this, but I believe it's a very disappointing generation for both PlayStation and Xbox. They've just been weaker than the previous generations. I wouldn't really say it's necessarily just an Xbox issue.
Incredibly disappointing. So you want to call me a fanboy because I walked away from my main console because the last 4 years have been a joke? And the market represents that with how poorly the device has sold? You go right ahead and call me a fanboy. I don't care.
That's bullshit, Reforge. We all know you care. Whenever we call you a fanboy, you seem to always mention it in your streams that people disagree with you and that you take it in such a negative light because people don't agree with your opinions and whatever else. You seem to get very stuck on the fact that people call you a fanboy, which you are. So I think that's it for this video. I grabbed you all the best parts, and I hope you enjoy it, because Reforge is refusing to learn like always, and he's going to continue to probably double down on this very shitty opinion after getting called out by a couple of fools. But if you haven't already, I would recommend watching that video that I told you to watch. It was actually pretty good. Reforge really did get a lot more mad at it. I think he actually made a couple other responses. If I really need to, maybe I'll make another video. I don't really think I need to, but that's it for this video. See you in the next one.